guys, how's it going? It's your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here, coming at you with a My Hero Academia review from Manga chapter 274 titled Search. And let me just say this right off the back, it was a really good chapter. I really did enjoy it. And there's a lot to reveal in this chapter, and I'll just say that a lot of information that is going to be in this review is a lot of it I've said in the spoiler for this chapter, so this is going to be a more in-depth review of that, as well as we'll be showing a few of the panels and going more in-depth into it. But there were some things that I really didn't get from the spoilers that I was able to only really get from the official translation, so that's a good thing for you guys to know. So with that out of the way, let's get started. So we start off this chapter the way that we ended the last chapter, with Endeavor coming towards Shigaraki with full force with the intent to kill. And we basically just get within the next few pages of just Shigaraki and Endeavor just fighting each other. Endeavor comes in using one of his new special moves, his curtain, basically engulfing Shigaraki in just an entire gulf of flames. And while he's doing this, so Shigaraki hears the word "all for one" going through his head as he's freezing as Endeavor goes in for the attack and uses Hell's Curtain. But from what we've seen in this chapter, when it comes to like that voice that he's hearing, you would think that, oh, it has to be all for one. It has to be like all for one from Tartarus telling him to go after one for all. But from this scene when he freezes, as well as a few scenes later on, it seems to be apparent that the quirk of all for one has its own will and like is responding to the fact that one for all is nearby, and by doing so activating quirks out of Shigaraki's control. For instance, we kind of get a glimpse of him activating a specific quirk that we've actually seen in the series, and I'm going to get to what that quirk is, but you can probably guess what quirk he's using at this moment. We see, again, Endeavor going in on Shigaraki, just burning him up, and while he's burning him up, he's like, I have to get rid of him fast. I have to get rid of him now. And while he's thinking this, Shigaraki just comes in with his hand, trying to attack Endeavor. Endeavor, being the #1 hero, dodges it instantly and goes in for another attack. But then he starts realizing that, something is wrong. How is he able to move so fast while, you know, I'm burning him alive? And he immediately comes to the conclusion, it's like, he has regeneration. That's what he's doing. And while he's going in for another attack, Shigaraki just comes in, just trying to decay him as well. But something I mentioned in the spoilers, we see Endeavor grab Shigaraki by the wrist, which in that I was like, that's extremely smart, showing that Shigaraki's decay only really works when he touches him or touches something to decay it. Endeavor just grabs him and is like, you're not gonna do that. But because he grabs him, this ties into the fact that potentially that all for one has like some form of sentience, because it activates what we assume to be the jet cannon quirk that we saw the original all for one use against All Might, and blows Endeavor away. And while that happened, Shigaraki just comes to his realization like, wow, this is weird. I have this weird feeling inside of me. And we get more elaboration on what that feeling is. But before we really get to what that feeling is, I like to go back to a previous panel where we see Shigaraki, after he blew Endeavor into the ground using his quirk, that air cannon quirk, he goes towards the box and he's able to take out a few vials of the quirk erasing drug, meaning that there are still some quirk erasing drugs left, so potentially it could be used on Endeavor or another hero. But what is also interesting is that he pulls out a hand. He pulls a hand out of the box, assumingly a hand that represents like one of his family members. I'm predicting it's probably his mother, which ties into an idea that he has gotten rid of a large chunk of his hands, but I think that he will still like retain like at least one of his hands, which probably is the hand of his mother or potentially Nana. So basically the hand just represents like his past and how it's still clinging to him, and it will probably continue to cling to him until he fully lets go of it. So we see that, and then we also get more elaboration on like the feeling that he felt when Endeavor first attacked him. He's like, he remembers what his master was talking about when it came to All for One, and how it had all of this power, had everything that it could possibly want, except for that one thing. And Shigaraki begins to realize what that one thing is, and he says it out loud. He says, "One for all." That's the one thing that I need to feel whole. One for all. And then we see like basically a grayscale with these little tiny lights, and one of them is shining extremely brightly, showing that that is all one for all. And with that, Endeavor repeats what Shigaraki says. It's like, one for all? And because he's saying this, Burnin is hearing the entire conversation, and she's like, one for what? What? And Deku's behind her, he's like, oh no. So yeah, after cutting from the fight with Endeavor and Shigaraki, we cut back over to the city where we see Burnin talking about all for what? What are you talking about, Endeavor? What's going on? As Deku's in the background frozen, realizing, oh shit, this is getting serious. They called out one for all, something that literally only a few people knows exists. Now Endeavor knows it. And then he just has the gears go through his mind. It's like, you probably heard it from Shigaraki, meaning that Shigaraki has potentially all for one, meaning that he could possibly go after me. And that is confirmed when Shigaraki's like, found you. And then we immediately cut over to Ragdoll, confirming that the reason why Shigaraki was able to find all for one, was able to use all for one to find one for all, is because of Ragdoll's quirk search, which ties into the name of this chapter. It's all connected, and this is the reason why I enjoy reading the official translations, because this isn't something that I would have caught on to by only reading the scanlations themselves. And especially when you put pictures to it, because we cut over to Ragdoll in the Wild Wild Pussycats headquarters, how she's contemplating about, man, I wish I still had my quirk, because then I'll be very helpful to the heroes. And then that ties into like the opposite of what's happening, is that because she doesn't have her quirk, because Shigaraki has it, it's helping the villains find all for one, or find one for all. Gosh, that's confusing. So immediately after she has this recollection, Shigaraki just goes on the offensive and rushes towards the city, towards the students, potentially aiming for Deku, as Endeavor is like, hey, if you have any heroes that like are very mobile, build a perimeter around me. Also, Shigaraki is heading towards the city, so y'all need to get far, far away. And as it's all happening, Deku's just sitting there and he's just looking around. And a little bit of tidbit information that I really found interesting was like a piece of dialogue where you just have one student basically saying like, what? Funk Man is dead? Or like, Funk is dead? And another kid's like, never mind that. And why I found that interesting is it means that when it comes to all the people who are in the city, all the heroes that are in the city pretty much right now are students, not just of UA, but students around the country. And what is potentially saying is one of the students is saying, hey, this other student is dead, and the other student who he's talking to is like, never mind that, meaning that some students have died in this war, which if you remember in the last video, one of the last videos, I talked about how Hirokoshi didn't really kill children unless it was in a flashback, in the case of Oburo. But this just shows that, yeah, this is like a real war where like, yeah, sure, this is a random student, but this person is still a kid who wants to be a hero, now is dead in the same vein as Oburo, just dead, unable to achieve their dream of really becoming a hero. So it shows like how destructive Shigaraki's decay is, and how it's indiscriminate, whether it'll attack civilian, hero, or student. It doesn't matter. If you get caught by it, you're dead. And while there's a whole lot of chaos around Deku. Deku's just looking around. He's like probably thinking in his head like, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? I know what I have to do. But before he can even say it, you have Bakugo right behind him. And it's like, hey, I already know what you're thinking. You know, if you tell them that, they'll try to defend you as much as they can to try to prevent Shigaraki from getting to you. You damn nerd. It's like, Deku's like, well, Kachan? What's going on? Deku and Bakugo are having a conversation about what they should be doing as heroes. Deku realizes that Shigaraki is going after him, so he thinks that he has to get away from the other heroes, from the civilians, to try to protect them and prevent Shigaraki from doing harm to them, while Bakugo also comes to the same conclusion, and he comes to the conclusion that if the heroes knew that Shigaraki was going to go after Deku, they would do their hardest to try to protect him and therefore put their lives on the line for him. So to prevent that from happening, and due to the fact that they are connected by the fact that they know what One for All is, they're separating themselves from the group and they're about to cooperate with each other. And as like Shoto and Ochako are like calling out to them, and Deku's like, oh yeah, I forgot something. You get this scene where, like a double page spread where you have Shigaraki going after Deku, you have Ochako being scared, and Deku comes to the realization that he is what Shigaraki is after. So he has to separate himself from the group. But then he also, for the most part, probably comes up with a plan in his head to, like, if not prevent Shigaraki from getting him, trying to stop him by tapping into Endeavor's like microphone. Is basically saying, hey, I have a plan, let me stay on this communication so I can tell you, as the chapter ends. And that's pretty much what the chapter is. And all I can really say is I really found this chapter very enjoyable, primarily due to the fact that we get to see more of Shigaraki using All for One, showing that he has the capability of using the multiple quirks that we've seen, even a quirk that we saw All for One take, because we saw All for One and he told us that he took Ragdoll's quirk because it seemed very useful, which it comes full circle for what he said. It was like he found it very useful to the point where now Shigaraki is using that quirk to find Deku, and also elaborating more on the fact that potentially All for One could be its own sentient thing, because we know for a fact that when it comes to Deku and One for All, that the vestiges in there have their own autonomy, that they are for the most part like living inside of the quirk. And it makes sense that something else is also living within inside All for One, driving Shigaraki to regain One for All, since One for All is basically a derivative of it, of All for One, because it was created from it to an extent. So it elaborates more on that idea that quirks for the most part could be just sentient ideals manifested in like a person's body, and they could have their own autonomy, as we see in this chapter. And then we also have the idea that Shigaraki has a regeneration quirk, as well as he has quirks that the original All for One stole, that he's able to use them. If not subconsciously, he can use them to his benefit, specifically regeneration, which means that you have to basically kill him to an extent to like put him down, because if you don't, he'll just regenerate. And lastly, what I really enjoyed about this chapter is primarily the character growth that we have seen with Deku and Bakugo, specifically with Bakugo, because what I enjoyed most is that when Deku was coming up with the idea of like leaving the group, Bakugo is the one that like basically tells it straight out. And it shows that he understands Deku, because not only have they known each other for a while, but that he has finally opened up to him and understands like what he's thinking and what it truly means to be a hero. In the form of, yes, he wants to fight Shigaraki, but he realizes first and foremost as a hero, he tries to protect the people, which is why Bakugo and Deku are going away from the larger group to distract Shigaraki so that he doesn't cause the civilians as well as the other heroes harm. And that's something that you wouldn't have seen Bakugo do at the beginning of the story. It shows growth of Bakugo as a character, and that's something that I really enjoyed. So yes, overall I really did enjoy this chapter. I thought it was really great. I thought just everything in this chapter was amazing. If I were to give it a score, I probably would give it like a 4.5 out of 5. It's just a really good chapter and I really did enjoy it. So with that, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you'll continue watching my manga reviews for My Hero Academia and potentially another series. I'm not gonna say what that series is, but if you know and you've been watching these videos, I've said it a few times in the previous videos, and hopefully it's something that I'll start doing more of. So anyway, like, comment, subscribe, do all of that cool jazz, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye. Woo.